It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today. Welcome back to Reality Check. We are your hosts, Jess and Jill, and today we want to talk about the women that we actually can't help and why. And there are just some people that never change, even with the perfect plan. And I know that a lot of women think that about themselves from a biological standpoint of like, I am broken in some fashion, and this is why I can't get results. This isn't about the biology part of this. This is about the human part of this in the context of your brain and what your inputs actually look like and what it actually does take to get results. And you know, we actually were just talking about a transformation from one of our other coaches today. And, you know, Coach Liz was describing it as someone who is just like relentless, like whatever you tell her to do, she'll do it. And I think a lot of women identify that way. But when it comes down to it, if I say, hey, we're going to do a muscle building phase for the next 2 years and we're not going to focus on the scale, most people would give me pushback, right? So it's like, okay, you're not really willing to do anything it takes to get your dream physique, right? Because you have these beliefs in your head about, you know, what those steps are, what it takes, or what your inputs should look like. And whether it's ego or just fear or something else, people tend to not stray, even if the inputs that they swear are the things they need to do aren't giving them the result they want, right? So cliche, but definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over and thinking something different is going to happen. And that's the reality, is that there are people that we can't help, and they will spend their, sadly, entire adult lives chasing a result that they aren't equipped to do mentally, physically, emotionally, anything.
Or doing the same, like they might think they're doing different things, but it's like different versions of the same thing over and over and over again. So like, oh yeah, well, it worked when I did keto, and then it worked when I did Weight Watchers, and then it worked and it's like all of those are different versions of restricting and having less calories, right? Like it's all the same thing, and it didn't work because you keep having to go back to it, right? So trying a different thing and having to truly step outside of your comfort zone sometimes is the answer. But also, like, part of this episode is the people who are most successful will go over also. Like some of our clients who get the best results are not who you would think. It is not the most fit people who are, their entire identity is revolving around fitness. It's not always the most consistent people, but what we find is they have similar characteristics of being open, of talking about their roadblocks when they have the roadblocks, so that we can meet them where we are and provide tools and new strategies, right? Like these little things compile over the course of a year, 2 years, 3 years, and these people completely change their lives, while the other people who are working really hard, grinding, keep themselves stuck. So, okay, I guess we can kind of go over first like we kind of broke it down into like a profile. So the first one is the everything's fine client. Okay. So I have these clients where I'm like, I know we're not seeing any progress. Like I can read through the very fluffy, like check-in answers that are like,
this one is actually
fine.
Not as typical, by the way.
Okay, everything's great. This is not that typical, but I can think of a handful of clients that I'm like, my gosh, would you just be honest with me and honest with yourself? Because then we could do something. Like, this is just a waste of your money.
Also, I feel like they do sometimes reach a place of acceptance in themselves, which I think is growth in some fashion in and of itself, right? But don't come to check in and say, my clothes are fitting better. I worked out 3 days this week. I'm so proud. And it's like, there's no workout.
And I'm like, but I can see that you did one workout. I can see that. Yeah. Like
stats are all the same. Like we're not rushing you, right? You can make progress as slow as you want. But to Jess's point, be honest. So with clients, that can be difficult to coach, and we do it because we're good at it and we've done it for a long time. But we have to actually show the gap. And I have to be like, hey, this is like the rate of progress I expected. This was the goal you told me you wanted. At the pace we're going, I'm fine if this is what we're doing. But are you okay if you're doing X, Y, and Z or not doing X, Y, and Z, and your timeline is 2 years to lose 10 pounds? Like, are you cool with that? Right. And they'd of course be like, well, no, I know I need to do more. Right. So we have to like call them out a little bit and call them forward. But again, if they're like, listen, I'm feeling really good, I'm feeling really balanced, my goals have shifted to just maintain and be present and whatever. Great. I love
Then
that for
that's
you and I
good. But if
support
you
you.
tell us, right, we are not pushing physique change. If somebody's goal is, I just want to build healthy habits, okay, cool. Then again, if you're hiring us to help you grow in some sort of way, being complacent and doing the same thing over and over just to get through the length of your contract is really a waste of your money. You're just dumping it down the toilet. What are you doing? But again, this is not just about physique. This is about any health goal that you might have. If you just keep doing the same thing, but being like, yeah, I'm doing well this summer. And I'm like, well, that's cool, but you haven't really gotten real with me in any of your check-ins, so we're not really making headway. And I'm not your, like I always say, my goal is to educate and empower clients. It's not to be like your accountability buddy and your cheerleader. You're an adult and you can make your decisions. And I'm not going to pry it out of you and be like, I sense that you're lying to me. Like, that's not my job. You can trust me or not trust me, but you're not going to get you're not going to get the most out of the service.
Right.
So, okay, that's a very challenging but very rare client. The second one, this is a very common client that we have. And I think some of it is because we market to high performing, high achieving women who are go, 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 right? That profile tends to lend itself to these women who are like, yeah, I exercise 6 days a week. I have a perfect disciplined schedule. And they start our workouts and they say, oh, these workouts are too easy. Okay, time out. What's the intention behind it? In your head, you've always thought harder equals more effective. And that may not be the case. Right now, we're not measuring how effective a workout is by how much you sweat or by how high your heart rate gets. We're measuring it by how heavy can you lift in that given set. Have you ever tried that? And then they're like, okay, I guess I'll try it for a few weeks. And then they start to see changes that they've never seen in their body in 3 workouts a week instead of 6. And it's incredible. But it takes a lot of relinquishing control, which is very scary for this client profile, right? When you're somebody who is kind of a boss in all of these areas of your life, and you research stuff, right? So you go and you're like, okay, I need a Dutch test and I think I need peptides and I need hormones. And based on this thing I saw on TikTok, I think I probably have a parasite. So I need this class. And you're going in a million directions. You might have the best providers, but you've got a bunch of different people and you're chasing all these different things versus following one plan really, really well. So you kind of just keep spinning in circles versus seeing the best outcomes.
And also, I think that it's interesting when women will say, can you give me like a supplement protocol and do my labs? And I'm like, no, because that's not solving the problem. And people really believe wholeheartedly that the thing they're missing is targeted supplementation, whether it's lack of awareness or you just don't want to admit that you don't want to do certain things. I have a client who significantly over exercises and under eats. And she keeps talking about, her body fat, and she talks about her gut symptoms. And I did her labs and I'm like, listen, I'm happy to take this snapshot and tell you what I think of it. Right. Looking at her labs, I was like, hey, you do have some things that we need to like kill off and rebalance in your gut, but I can't walk you through that until we get your exercise down from 14 times a week to 4, because your gut's never going to heal. There's no point in you spending all of that money on those supplements. So it's interesting because people like somebody recently, a client of ours was like, I'm having all this bloating and I went through all the stuff in my gut protocol and I don't get it. But guess what? She's eating in the car, on the go, on the run, 24/7. It's fascinating about the human brain, how much people don't want to admit that their own behaviors are contributing to the consequences they're experiencing. They're like, there's got to be this external factor. Another client, she quit because she was like, no, I feel so horrible and my labs aren't that bad. You must have missed something because there's just no way. Like, she literally doesn't want to believe that she's the problem. And I hate to break it to everyone listening to this. If you have gut problem, hormone problem, cortisol dysfunction, whatever it is, your labs will tell you exactly what's going on in your body right now. Supplements can supplement the changes that you make, but you are the problem. Everything that you do or don't do or eat or don't eat in your life is what got you and your labs to look the way that they do. It's not your fault necessarily all the time because you don't know what you don't know.
And that goes for us too. Like, I am my own problem. My gut dysfunction, some of my gut dysfunction is from being fed antibiotics daily as a child, for a kidney thing, right? But a lot of it is my own behaviors. If I keep having my computer open with Bravo in the background at night past bedtime when it's dark and I should be sleeping, I can't then wonder, why does this gut thing keep reoccurring even though I follow a gut protocol perfectly? Guess what? I feel good. I feel better after the gut protocol for a little while, but if I don't change those behaviors, it's going to keep coming back, right? So again, this is not blaming. This is just, okay, hey, we're going to present the facts, and then the whole system works as a whole. And with this advanced protocol client, this little avatar we're talking about, a lot of times it's like, but I'm doing my sauna and red light therapy, and they're looking for every biohack in the book to avoid the one thing that they're not willing to cut back on, whether it is overworking and, okay, I'm on night shift and I really care about all of my, I have nurses and doctors like this who are clients who are like, but it's literally life or death with some of their patients, right? But at the expense of their own health. So I'm not saying don't do the other things that might contribute. Don't add your vitamins and your sauna time and whatever, but you're not going to really feel better until you can bring your stress level down, or until I start sleeping better, or until you do that one thing that you keep avoiding. I have one client and she wants to get labs again. She's already been through a protocol in the past. And it's kind of similar to the example that Jill gave, where I'm advising her, like, let's get your calories up. You're doing all these things. You're cutting out gluten. But you've never actually eaten over 2,000 calories for 3 months at a time. And I've known you now for 3 years. And every time you get to that high calorie amount, you start to cut back down again, whether intentional or not. Like, she has a lot going on in her life. But until we do that really consistently, let's not keep throwing money down the drain trying to find these hacks, right? Let's do that one thing that we're avoiding. There's a book called The One Thing. I actually really like that. But it's kind of about that concept about, like, I've also heard, I forget what it's called, but it's like this 80-20 rule where, like, 80% of your outcome results come from 20% of your inputs. So you need to figure out what are the most effective inputs. Instead of doing all the things, find, like, what are the biggest rocks to move and really put your energy into those things. And our job as a coach is to direct you to that. It's not, there's a million different dials we can turn, but, like, it's more worth your energy to release yourself of all these other things and just focus on the two most important. Just lift weights 3 to 4 times a week effectively, and eat whole foods for 6 months and watch your body transform, right? And your hormones and everything. So anyway, the advanced protocol client, very doable, right? We have lots of these women who end up changing their tune and changing their life because they realize how mentally healthy it's become for them too, where they're like, oh my gosh, now I have 3 extra days that I used to work out that I can, like, hang out with my kids, and I can, like, go outside and be in the sunshine. And they realize that they're happier and less mentally obsessed over it. So it becomes this thing where that becomes the biggest win, even though they also saw the physique change that they did sign up for. So it's very, very cool, but it's hard to release. So, okay.
Hold on, I have one other thing. We have a client who shared in the community that she really struggled going on a trip recently with family. And she's like, all I could think about the whole time was my legs, and I'm not in shape, and I'm not this. And I said to her, do you think that your family and all those people you love that we're on vacation with were thinking, man, this trip would be way better if this woman's name's legs weren't such a problem? And she was like, wow, when you say it like that, it's really silly, right? So it is interesting. People want to do all the things. And also, I think with the advanced functional stuff, people hear the labs, and that information can be really validating for somebody who doesn't feel good. But also, we have to be very careful as coaches in the way that we communicate this information, right? These are the little things you guys don't know we think about, because I can't project something onto you that you're going to carry as part of your personality and identity. If I tell you you've got gut dysbiosis or your stress has broken down your gut lining, I have to be very mindful of how I communicate that to you, because I don't want you to then carry that forward always as part of who you are, right? And I think a lot of things around health in your body tend to do that. So anyway.
That's a great point. And the placebo effect is real. Our bodies can heal when we believe they can heal. And there's lots of research about that. So it's a balance of, okay,
like people love a protocol just to have a protocol. They love to be like, well, I have this. It's like their crutch. And I'm like, hey, no, that's not, we can fix that. We have fixed that. And you're still attached to it for some reason. So the advanced functional protocols are lovely and fascinating. We do them all day, every day. But our goal is to get you to a place of resilience and balance in your life and freedom and just, like, living. Shocker that's the goal at the end of the day. But
Okay, the next one is, I think that this kind of overlaps with that last one, actually, the DIY client. So I kind of touched on this, but usually the advanced protocol clients are also the ones, again, high achieving. I'm going to put myself in this category, right? Neurotic to the point of researching every detail. I hired a lawyer for something and I'm like Googling and looking on chat at like, well, what if we tried this thing and that thing? And he's like, dude, you this is what I do all day, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. That's like how I feel when clients come to me being like, well, this one person told me this and then this person did, and they're looking things up on YouTube, and they might have a couple providers. Some may be good and some may not be good. But they're cherry picking from lots of different things instead of seeing how the whole system works together. So it's like, I already know nutrition, or I already know how to lift, so just give me the nutrition advice. And I'm like, okay, but how you lift and recover actually matters in terms of the nutrition guidance I give. Like, I have one client and he's a strength and performance coach himself. He's not a nutrition coach, but he drives himself hard. He undereats and he works out with high intensity a lot, and he loves his workouts. That's great and all, but if you want to see muscle building, we actually need to dial back the intensity, because your body needs time to recover between these workouts that you're pushing yourself on, right? So if I don't have access to how you're progressing in your workouts and you're like, no, I got that piece. Okay, but I don't think I'm fueling you appropriately then, right? Or we're not adding enough recovery modalities. The whole body works together as one system. And there's also like, I think that there's a lot of that with people who think they know more about their inputs than they know. So like, we do this all day, every day. All we do is look at people's food intake, right? If I don't track my intake, I cannot confidently say, okay, well, I had precisely this much in terms of my proteins or my calcium intake or my whatever. But I have tons of clients who tell me like, oh yeah, I know I ate at maintenance, even though I didn't track all week. And I'm like, sure. Like, I'm sure that I'm sure that you're precise with that, even though you were eyeballing it. Like, correct. It's just not accurate, right? And again, that doesn't mean everybody needs to track MyFitnessPal. I have some people who don't, who we see very good health progress using other tools. But it's the DIY profile. The DIY, no, I got it. I don't need to give you access to this data. Okay, well, that's fine, but it definitely gives us more of a challenge in being able to systematically create results.
Absolutely. And I think that the DIY is really interesting. And I feel like a lot of these often tie back to these beliefs that we are so rooted in for some reason that actually aren't serving us. We talked about this in a podcast episode recently, where a lot of women are doing a lot of things, but it doesn't mean you're doing the right things to get the result that you want. And women all the time, again, tying back to the last one, even, can you just do my supplements and my labs? I got nutrition and training covered. Respectfully, if you don't feel good and you're struggling with your gut and you're bloated 24/7, you're exhausted, if you sleep 8 hours, your hair's falling out, your nails are brittle, whatever, insert symptom here, your nutrition and training are not okay if you don't feel good and you feel the need to run labs. And I promise you, you will spend an absurd amount of money on labs and supplements and still be stuck. So, in terms of the DIY client, so many people think, well, I'm maintaining my weight, so I'm not doing anything wrong, right? Correlation, not a causation type of thing. Where, okay, you've been eating 1,500 calories for 10 years. You've downregulated your metabolism. Your gut's a wreck because all you do is eat convenience foods. You fast unintentionally, but yeah, you got it, right? No, these are stressors on your body and they're a problem. And, I tell clients when they come in with training, right? Like, let's say they go to like boot camp classes. And I say, hey, are these classes something that just bring you joy and community and connection? Or are you open to changing something to get the physical result that you want faster? Because you are coming to me saying, I don't look or feel the way that I want to, but then you don't want to change a large majority of your behaviors, right? So I usually give that option. We never like force anyone to change anything, but I have a client that has been with me for 16 months now, and she just now let me program 1 day a week for her. And I'm like, can you just appease me and give me like 60 days of doing it my way? If you're like, I hate it, it's done, my body hasn't changed, full send, go back to in your direction. We're in the middle of that 60 days, but I'm very confident that she's going to be like, shit, I wish I did this sooner, right? Because women definitely, and this is going to tie into the next iteration of client, so often think the more that I do, the faster I'll get results or the better results I'll get. And I can't tell you how wrong that thought is and why so many people get stuck in the pigeonhole of I'm doing everything right and I can't lose weight, because you're just not going to get
is
where you
not
want to be.
more effective. More effective is more effective.
Right.
There's also been so many clients that I can think of who it's like they are lying to themselves about stuff. And again, this is not me pushing I don't love running. A lot of people know that, like if they're in my little world. But I still every now and then I'll do like hit sprints and stuff like interval sprints and stuff just to make sure I still got it from a cardio capacity, right? I've had so many women who come to us running because they think that's their only way to stay lean, because as soon as they stop running, they lose weight. Well, that's an adaptation that's happened. Again, that's not causation. It's not that the running equals fat loss. It's that you've adapted your body to need this level of energy output to maintain where it is. So I have women who I recommend we dial back running, and the ones who do it, who tell me, I love it, I love it, I love it, I can't cut it out, it's my mental health, blah, blah, blah. Once they cut it out and they realize like, oh, I actually feel great in my body without the running, they tell me like, I didn't even love it as much as I thought I did. I think I just thought I had to do it. It's like, then they're able to release this addiction to this thing. And again, I still have some clients who love running and we program it in, whatever. But like so many of them tell me that, oh, I didn't really love it after all. I'm way happier now. I feel less run down. I feel better recovered. I just thought I needed it to stay lean.
Yep. And the next clientele version is, again, more is better. And again, these are like the higher achieving women that work out 5, 6, 7 days a week. They always chase high intensity. Maybe they throw in runs because they like the rush of what they get from running. And they also are in a tizzy anytime the scale goes even 0.8 in the direction they don't want it to. And I have to tell you, if I could pick one thing that keeps women stuck from reaching their physique goals, just one out of every possible thing I could choose, it would be letting the scale dictate your decisions and your inputs, right? Because the scale goes up and they're like, oh, I'm going in the wrong direction. I've got to get calories back. And I have to tell you, and I want you to be honest with yourself when you hear this, the women who struggle with that scenario where the scale goes up at the slightest change, whatever, those women are generally not monitoring their inputs consistently. So they can't even trust the data because they're not being consistent. Or they're not tracking enough data and only relying on the scale. They're not looking at inches, how their clothes fit, whatever. I have a client that's with me right now whose movement I am dialing back quite a bit. And she's like, but I'm so afraid to keep eating more and moving less. And I'm like, that's fair, right? That's logical that your brain is telling you this is unsafe. However, my job as a coach is not to cheer you on and rah you. My job is to show you the data based on the changes you're making. You're down 7 pounds since we've started to cut back movement and increase food. Your inches are exactly the same. And as much as you don't want to admit it, I have your scores every single week on digestion, energy, sleep, stress, all of those things, and they're all better. Your stress is down, your hunger cues are up, which is a great thing for your metabolism. Your energy is better, your sleep is better, your strength is better, your digestion is better. So please tell me why moving in this direction is a problem for you when you're actually getting everything you wanted when you came to me. You wanted better digestion. You wanted to be able to sleep. You wanted to wake up with more energy. You wanted to eat more food and live your life. Here we are doing it, and still your brain is like, I don't know about this, right? So it takes time, right? And that's a big part of our work. But more is not better, especially if you're someone that has been doing, putting in air quotes, more for a really long time and not getting the result that you want. And this woman, every check-in in the beginning was like, I'm exhausted. I'm like, I would be too if I was doing what you're doing. This is why we're moving in this direction. So through all of her ups and downs emotionally, every single week, I'm like, my girl, I'm going to tell you the same thing every time until it resonates in your brain. This is the data. This is what you changed this week. This is what you're doing really, really well. This is the gap we still need to fill to get where you want to be. Here's the data. Rinse and repeat. Do it again. do it again, do it again. And she was, I could tell, almost reluctant to tell me that her energy went up a teeny tiny bit. And then when I'm like, every week, she's like a negative, and that's a whole other thing we're working through. And she's very hard on herself. And she would be like, I don't know what my win is. I don't know what my win is every week. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll tell you what wins are until you can recognize them yourself. And finally this week, she was like, well, I didn't wake up starving for the first time in a really long time every day this week. And that was nice. And I was like, finally, it took us 8 weeks, but I got something out of you. So like,
but it's like we have so many clients who were former clients of ours who text us too, like, oh my gosh, this is crazy because I think how you guys think. Like I have Jess or Jill's voice in my head saying like, oh duh, the scale went up today because this week I started a new phase of workouts and I had a really heavy leg day yesterday. So this is water retention in my muscles. Like it gets to a point where they're able to point out, oh, this is exactly why this is happening. So I would almost lump like the client, the more is better client, I also feel oftentimes is the claim causation client. So they see the scale go up after one day of unusual eating and they think, oh no, I can't eat more because more equals body fat. And we're like, hello, can we educate you along the way? That's not body fat just because you had an alcoholic beverage yesterday. That's why that went up 1 pound. Like, so the more we can show you the data and educate, the more it unwinds this cycle of you claiming causation in the wrong areas.
Yeah. And then the last client type that we tend to work with, we're calling it the ghost. And quite frankly, I think somebody ghosts when either they're afraid because they feel like they're failing, right? And a lot of times people think they're failing us as a coach. And I'm like, I'm just here to guide you. You don't answer to me, right? Like if you come in and say, I can't stick to any of this and I don't know why, great. Let me help you break it down and let's see what sucks. Like I had a client that's like,
and maybe we dial the plan back significantly.
Yeah, maybe we need to throw it away and start over. Like I had a client who's like, man, I wish I had better morning routine, but I wake up at 5 a.m. That's what she said in her check-in. And we've been working together for a long time. I'm like, great, tell me more. What do you wish you could do in your morning? What do you think is lacking in your routine, right? Because when she verbalizes that to me, I can say, let's reverse engineer, or hey, that's obviously not realistic for your schedule right now, but here's what we can do. Tell me if these feel realistic, right? So my job is to help you do that. Now, if a client is consistently checking in and not doing things, that's also my job to be like, something's not working. I can see this is a pattern. This isn't a one-off scenario where life was hard, whatever. This is a pattern. What do we need to do differently, right? And that could be just a reality check of them being like, man, I need to get my shit together. I can do this. Or maybe you're right. Maybe I do need to not overcommit myself. But the ghosting tends to come from not wanting to face that reality or just feeling overwhelmed in general.
And this could also tie into our first profile we talked about, the person who's like, yeah, everything's good. It doesn't mean that you're just never checking in. Sometimes it is, which again is your choice and a waste of your money. But sometimes it's like just avoiding the weeks that you're in a slump. So, okay, I'm just not going to check in, or I'll just message my coach instead of doing a full check-in form to be like, hey, I didn't really do anything this week. Okay, those are the times you need to check in because
that's
guess
data.
What? When you're motivated and everything's going well in life, you don't need support. Like those are the times that everybody excels during the New Year's resolutions or during a new diet, right? The times when things become mundane or life gets hard, that's when we can be most supportive because we can actually break down what were your specific roadblocks. One person might not work out for a very different reason than another person. So then we can come up with systems to make it easier on future you during these hard weeks, right? So the people, we actually have like a little list here that we can kind of cruise through. That's the opposite, right? The most successful clients. But one of them is the polar opposite of this. Some of our most successful clients are the ones who still show up and very honestly and very honest with themselves, even during the weeks that they didn't do much. Those are the clients who become most successful because we're able to meet them where they are and say, okay, cool. Tracking macros feels tedious. Why don't we try this habit tracker? But every week you still got to send me a picture of the habit tracker because then you can just check boxes each night before you go to bed instead of having to be on your phone all the time. Okay, workouts feel overwhelming because it's daunting to go to the gym. Can I write you 2 home workouts just until we get back into the habit of it? And then maybe we add it back in, but we'll see how you feel. 45 minutes a day is really hard because you have little kids at home. Okay, can we do 5 15 to 20 minute workouts instead of 2 to 3 45-minute ones, right? Like our job is to meet you where you are, but if you hide from us because you think that everybody needs to follow this picture perfect 10,000 step plan. That's not our reality. We're not judging you at all. And our job is to meet you where you are and help you just become 1% healthier.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and if you feel like you are somebody, you might not even be working with a coach, but you ghost kind of yourself, right? Where you're like, I'm just going to hide from my inputs and pretend that didn't happen. I fell off the wagon, whatever. Like, I know women that will diet on their own and they won't tell anyone they're doing it because they are afraid they won't stick to it. If that's the case, you're probably not being realistic with the goals that you're setting for yourself, right? So you might not be working with a coach, but you still probably identify with one or even two of these like client profiles we described. I think it's time to be really honest with yourself of maybe I don't know what my nutrition actually should be, or maybe I could train differently or harder. I have a client who, I was like, hey, I know you said this workout's 8 out of 10, but based on your reps and your weights, I'm not seeing 8 out of 10 effort. Like you could do more on your deadlifts. And she literally was like, fuck you. And then the next week she was like, damn, you were right. I wasn't actually pushing myself as much as I thought. Cool. Glad I could reflect that back to you. Right. But it's like the littlest things that people, again, whether it's ego or just not wanting to face the reality, hold themselves back from not wanting to make those changes. So I think be honest with yourself and be like, okay, where am I holding myself back, even if it's in my head? The clients that do really, really, really well with coaching. And before I get into this, I want one caveat here. There are a lot of women that come to sign up and they say, what if I pay for this and don't stick to it? Please enlighten me on what the alternative is there. What's the alternative? If you are saying, I need help, I can't do this on my own, and then you come to me and say, but what if I don't stick to it? If you're not going to stick to it on your own, ever, if you haven't up to this point, or what are you going to do? Just curl up in a ball and ride off into the sunset of your life and accept this as your standard? You can choose that. That's your choice. But just know that that's our job, is to make this so simple for you to stick to and execute that it would be unreasonable for you not to get a result. Quite frankly, if you are a client listening to this and your results aren't at the pace that you want, might be a good time to be honest with yourself. And you might just be in a season of life where you have to accept that. And that's okay too, right? But I think it's really important to be honest with yourself about your inputs, what you can do, what you're maybe selling yourself short on. And don't compare yourself to other people that are getting the result that you want, because with so much love, they're probably doing the things that you aren't willing to do right now. And that's, again, either a choice or a season of life that you're in. So I also want to make that disclaimer before I then go into the qualities that we really love about a lot of the clients that we work with too.
An honest client, again, honest with themselves and also self-aware, which sometimes we need to help with pointing out things and giving some gentle like reflection. But I've talked about this client on other episodes. She's actually somebody who messages us all the time still. She's still working out and has completely transformed her life. She started with me on our intake call, like, hey, just so you know, I smoke cigarettes and I'm not ready to stop that one yet. And I was like, all right, well, that's fine. I'm not here to force you to do anything. Like, what are you willing to change? What are your goals, right? A lot of times at the beginning, and again, I'm not against this. I enjoy a hot dog at like a baseball game and stuff. But at the beginning, to hit her protein, she was eating hot dogs all the time. And it was like, okay, can we add one fruit? Right. But she was working out more and more consistently. We started with 2 days a week. She is now like 4 years later, the fittest and healthiest she's ever been, because it was one small step at a time. But she was completely honest with herself, and then I could meet her where she was, right? And again, this goes for the people too who are like, yeah, everything's good, because it's more comfortable than talking about what was hard. You're not going to get very far if that's your answer. And again, you might end coaching and go on your merry way, like, oh yeah, my coach just didn't get it. Like, you might think we're dumb. I can see through it, and I'm going to let you, like, I don't need to force it out of you. If you don't want to be honest with me and want to just be superficial, you're not going to get as much value as other people get out of this. And that's okay. The second one that we love, the curious client. Okay. Okay. Help me understand why are we doing that? And again, we try to proactively educate along the way about why we're making changes in protocols at different times. But the clients who ask a lot of questions tend to do well, and they also end up having more buy-in. They want to do the thing because they understand why it's going to work physiologically. The third one, this is going to surprise a lot of people, I think, but like the emotional client, So this is not emotional in the way of, oh, I'm just whining about my problems without being willing to change anything. But the clients who communicate when they are riding those roller coasters, right? I have a client actually this morning who sent me a very emotional video and then apologized, like, I'm sorry that this seems like a pity party, but blah, blah, blah. Like her body is, it's just something happened health wise that has nothing to do with this, that set her back. And it's frustrating, right? Immediately I'm like, dude, you can send me that. That's not like, to me, I don't see that as a downer. You're just being honest and vulnerable. And it, again, it gives us an opportunity to say, well, what can we control in this moment, right? You got to eat. So let's just talk about what can we eat this week and let yourself off the hook for your workouts if you have an injury. If the scale is upsetting you, talk to us about it, because that opens the door for us to have a conversation of the trends. And maybe like the example I gave earlier, I can say, oh, well, of course the scale went up. You had a couple alcoholic beverages 2 days in a row. How about you send me your weigh-in in 2 mornings now that you're back on a routine? And then they send it to me and it dropped down and they're like, oh my gosh, you called it. It dropped down. Cool. These data points eventually unwind these beliefs you have. Yes. Or you might say the scale upset you, and I might look at your data and say, okay, well, it makes sense that we're gaining a little bit because we really got to reel it in. It seems like these are the patterns I've seen in terms of our inputs, and we've kind of been slipping. Let's talk about what are your goals and are you willing to put in these inputs to change the outcomes, right? So it gives us an opening for conversation. So be honest with us, be transparent, give us those emotions. Our job is to then change the plan if needed. Your job is to do the inputs based on the plan that we come up with together. This is a team thing. This is not us telling you what to do. Your job is to do the inputs. If the outcomes then start to shift, it's our job to change the plan.
Yeah. And that ties back to that other client I mentioned earlier who's really struggling and really emotional and in that negative headspace, where I'm like, this is good because she's being extremely open and honest with how she's feeling. And I'm just like, data. And there's going to be a day where she relinquishes some of that and where she does feel safety in the process and the way that we're doing it. But it takes time. And I'm fully okay with you word vomiting. I got my emotion blockers on. I can separate, and I understand that it's not at me. It's just like, this is stressful. This is nerve wracking. This is the unknown, right? And that's my job, is to guide you and give you that peace of mind and that data as we navigate that piece. So, yeah.
So the next two, these are the last ones, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. But the imperfect client is, and again, we've just given lots of examples of this, but you're staying engaged and you keep coming back and you're not trying to be perfect, but you're consistent. Right? Again, a lot of people are like, I exercise 5 days a week. And then I watch them exercise 5 days a week and burn themselves out after 2 months and then do nothing for the next 2 months, on and off. Being consistent 2 days a week for 2 years is going to yield you better results, right? So like the people who just keep showing up and stay engaged without these expectations of feeling like they have to be perfect tend to, and again, behavior change wise, this tends to lead to better sustainability. And then last but not least, again, similar, the client who just shows up, right? We have the conversation, even on the week that you feel like you did nothing. You didn't work out. You ate fast food. You didn't track anything. Okay, but you still checked in. And then that gives us, maybe I don't have the data on paper, but we can have conversations about what was challenging and we can set a more realistic goal for the week ahead instead of you hiding for the next 2 weeks. And now we're creating a habit that we could have dug out of 2 weeks ago, right? So just showing up is huge.
Yeah. And I think just being honest with yourself and or your coach, if that's who you're working with, and being curious and showing up relentlessly, whether you're perfect or not, that's it. Like that's the summary. That's the moral of the story when you're pursuing a health goal specifically. So I think that's really the biggest takeaway. And just, again, be curious. You don't know what you don't know, and that's okay. There is a lot of information out there. I know it feels really frustrating to put in work and feel like you're not getting the result that you thought you would based on your effort. But again, you could be putting all of your eggs in the wrong basket and thinking this is going to get the result that I want, when actually it's sometimes taking you in the opposite direction. So if that's you, I think be honest with yourself and be like, okay, am I actually doing the things that I think I'm doing in my head? And then if you are, take it the next step and be like, what could I be doing differently? Or what don't I know? Or what's missing? But be mindful with all of the information on the internet, my page or anyone else's, it's really important to use discernment and figure out what's actually best for you and where you're at, and not fall into that trap of putting all your eggs in a different basket and it not meeting you where you're at, or trying to go 0 to 100. So that's it. And obviously you can see a little bit inside of how we coach and how we use labs, but how we still do the physique side and manage the behavior and lifestyle side. And that's really what's most important at the end of the day. So hope that was helpful, and we'll see you guys next time.